In 585 BCE, the Greek army did something unprecedented. They didn't breach the walls of Kirrha. They didn't starve the city out. They simply walked upstream and dumped thousands of pounds of crushed hellebore roots into the river.
The defenders collapsed, vomiting, cardiac arrhythmia, systemic paralysis. Chemical warfare in the ancient world was already terrifyingly effective. But one woman weaponized botany not against armies, against thrones. She didn't just kill kings, she rewired the entire political landscape of Greece, using neurotoxins, contact poisons, and what the Byzantines would later call Medea's oil.
This is the true story of how Medea used botanical neurotoxins to manipulate royal succession and political power. The pharmaceutical princess. Medea was not a Greek. She was Colchian, a princess from the eastern edge of the Black Sea, granddaughter of the sun god Helios and priestess of Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft and poisons. In Greek, the word for witch was pharmakis, literally one who works with drugs. And Medea was the greatest pharmakis who ever lived.
In Apollonius Rhodius's Argonautica, Medea doesn't cast spells with wands. She works with pharmaca, herbal drugs, potions and toxins. She prepares a fire-resistant salve for Jason from a precise cocktail of plant extracts. She puts the sleepless dragon guarding the golden fleece into a coma using a botanical tincture. And, according to the myth, she left her entire basket of Colchian herbs on Mount Pelion, where they supposedly sprouted for later Thessalian witches to harvest.
But here's what most retellings miss. Medea wasn't using magic. She was using applied toxicology. And the ancient Greeks knew exactly which plants she was working with, because they used them too. Her arsenal included three primary classes of botanical weapons. First, aconite, or monk's hood. Second, Hellebore, the Christmas rose. And third, a family of caustic compounds found in the Ranunculaceae family that would later inspire what historians call Medea's oil.
The neurotoxin arsenal. Aconite contains aconitine, a C19 diterpenoid alkaloid and one of the most potent neurotoxins in the plant kingdom. It doesn't kill like hemlock by paralyzing the diaphragm. It's far more insidious. Aconitine binds to neurotoxin receptor site 2 on voltage-gated sodium channels, the same site targeted by batrachotoxin from poison dart frogs. Normally, these channels open to depolarize a neuron, then rapidly close. Aconitine suppresses that closure. The channel locks open. Sodium floods in. The membrane cannot repolarize. The result? Sensory and motor nerves fire uncontrollably, then go silent. Victims experience paresthesia, tingling and numbness, followed by generalized paralysis. Death comes from cardiac arrhythmia or respiratory failure, usually within 1 to 12 hours. The ancient Greeks called aconite lycoctonon, wolf slaying, because hunters tipped their arrows with it. And according to Ovid and Plutarch, Medea tried to assassinate the hero Theseus with exactly this weapon, a cup of wine laced with aconite. She recognized him as Aegeus's long-lost son, a threat to her own son's inheritance. Only Aegeus's last-second recognition of his own sword, left as a paternity token, dashed the cup from Theseus's hands.
This wasn't personal jealousy. This was premeditated political murder to preserve her son's claim to the Athenian throne. Hellebore, the cardiac saboteur. Then there's Hellebore, Helleborus species, and their toxic cousins in the genus Veratrum. These plants contain bufadienolides, cardiac glycosides, that interfere with the sodium-potassium pump in heart muscle cells. The result is catastrophic: severe bradycardia, ventricular arrhythmias, and potentially fatal cardiac arrest. In 585 BCE, the Greeks weaponized this at scale, poisoning Kirrha's water supply with crushed hellebore and forcing the city's surrender without a single sword drawn. Medea, according to multiple sources, used hellebore in her infamous rejuvenation of Jason's father Aeson, boiling him in a cauldron with magical herbs. But the darker version of the myth suggests she first demonstrated this technique on Peleus, the usurper king of Iolcus, only she omitted the critical herbs, and Peleus was boiled alive.
Whether poison or caustic bath, the result was the same: the removal of a usurper, the restoration of Jason's bloodline to power, and a masterclass in how botanical knowledge could rewrite dynastic politics.
But Medea's most devastating political strike came years later in Corinth. Jason, her husband, the man for whom she'd betrayed her family and murdered her brother, abandoned her to marry Glauca, daughter of King Creon. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a political alliance that would make Jason heir to the Corinthian throne and render Medea and her sons disposable.
Medea's response remains one of the most horrifying acts of political warfare in literature. She sent Glauca a wedding gift, a finely woven robe and a golden diadem. Both were anointed with what Euripides calls pharmaka, but the effects he describes are not those of any simple poison. The color drains from her face, white foam streaming from her mouth. The crown of gold around her head was spewing out an eerie stream of ravenous fire. The flesh was dripping from her bones like sap from a pine, through the hidden gnawing of the poisons. Notice the symptoms: foaming at the mouth, convulsions, rolling eyes consistent with acute neurotoxic poisoning. But then the crown erupts in fire that cannot be extinguished. The robe adheres to the skin, and when Glauca tries to tear it away, her flesh comes with it. This isn't hemlock. This isn't aconite. This is a contact caustic agent combined with a flammable accelerant.
Modern toxicologists and chemists have identified what this likely was. The robe was saturated with naphtha crude petroleum, known to the Greeks as Medea's oil, mixed with plant resins to make it sticky, viscous, and inextinguishable. The Byzantines later used a similar formula: Greek fire. The Suda, a massive Byzantine encyclopedia, explicitly states, "The Greeks call naphtha Medea's oil." And Procopius, the 6th century historian,
confirms that crude oil was known as both Median oil and Medea's oil in antiquity.
But there's a second layer. The Ranunculaceae family, which includes Aconite and Hellebore, produces protoanemonin, a volatile compound that causes severe chemical burns on skin contact. Combined with naphtha and resins, this would create a substance that both poisons systemically and dissolves flesh on contact.
When King Creon tried to save his daughter, the poison transferred to him. He embraced her and died fused to her body, skin melting into skin. The political calculation that created Jason's alliance was literally incinerated in a single evening.
One gift, two deaths, a kingdom left without an heir. And Medea had proven that the most dangerous weapon in the ancient world wasn't bronze or iron. It was botanical chemistry, wielded with surgical, political precision.
The neuroscience of regicide. Let's step back and look at what Medea actually accomplished from a neurotoxicological perspective. Tier 1. Neuromuscular disruption. Aconitine's action on voltage-gated sodium channels produces exactly the symptoms described in ancient texts: paresthesia, progressive paralysis, foaming at the mouth, and death by respiratory or cardiac failure. It's a neurotoxin that turns the victim's own nervous system against them. Tier 2. Cardiac glycoside warfare. Hellebore's bufadienolides don't just kill individuals. They can be deployed at scale, as the Siege of Kirrha proved, to incapacitate entire populations through their water supply. This is area denial weaponry, 2,500 years before Geneva. Tier 3. Contact caustics and incendiaries. The poisoned robe represents something unprecedented in ancient literature: a targeted assassination device disguised as luxury goods. It combined systemic neurotoxicity with tissue-destroying caustics and adhesive flammables. This is the ancient equivalent of a letter bomb, or worse, a weaponized garment. And each target served a distinct political function. Peleus's death restored Jason's legitimate dynasty in Iolcus. The Theseus plot protected Medea's son's claim in Athens. And the Corinth massacre annihilated the rival power structure that threatened to replace her entirely. Medea didn't just murder her enemies. She identified the precise pressure points in the political architecture and applied botanical toxins with the accuracy of a surgeon. The irony? The plants Medea supposedly wielded are still medically relevant today. Aconitine derivatives are studied for their analgesic properties, though their therapeutic window is dangerously narrow. Hellebore compounds informed the development of cardiac glycosides like digoxin, and the very family of plants Medea used, Ranunculaceae, continues to yield molecules that modulate sodium channels, with implications for everything from pain management to epilepsy treatment. But perhaps Medea's greatest legacy is conceptual. She demonstrated that power in the ancient world didn't flow only from spears and shields. It flowed from knowledge. Specifically, the knowledge of which plants could stop a heart, paralyze a limb, or dissolve flesh from bone. In Euripides' tragedy, the chorus warns, "The gifts of gods are not to be rejected lightly." But Medea taught the darker corollary. The most dangerous gifts are the beautiful ones. the golden crowns, the fine robes anointed with compounds that bind to your sodium channels and don't let go.
She was a princess, a priestess, a mother, and a monster. But above all, Medea was the ancient world's first documented bioweapons specialist, and she used that expertise not to win battles, but to reshape the map of royal power itself.
If you want to see more deep dives into the science hidden inside ancient myths, from the real poisons of Cleopatra to the volcanic chemistry of Pompeii, hit subscribe and the notification bell. Let us know in the comments which mythological weapon you'd like us to reverse engineer next. Thanks for watching. The past is poison, but knowledge is the antidote.